Like to call tonight's meeting to order. It's Monday, August the 10th, and it's 7 o'clock p.m. We're here at the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe office. Everyone is in attendance except for Councillor Campbell, and he'll be joining us shortly via Zoom. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none, then we have a recommendation to approve the agenda as it stands for tonight, unless there's any additions. Seeing none, then could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Kingma, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All in favor? And that's carried. You've had an opportunity to read the minutes of the previous meeting held on July 20th, 2026. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, then we have a recommendation that these minutes from July 20th, 2026 be adopted as printed. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All in favor? And that's carried. Next up on our agenda are delegation and timed events. At this time, and what have we got? 7:02, that we have a recommendation that council convene as a committee of adjustment at 7:02 p.m. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Kingma, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All in favor? And that's carried. The purpose of the upcoming Committee of Adjustment and public meeting is to provide council, the Committee of Adjustment, and the general public an opportunity to hear from all interested parties regarding the applications being discussed this evening. The public is advised that comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record available for full disclosure. In respect to the Committee of Adjustment applications, only the applicant or a public body can appeal a Committee of Adjustment decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. This must be filed within 20 days from the date of decision. In respect to the public meeting applications, if a person or public body does not speak to the application at the public meeting or make written submissions to the township, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the council decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal or be added as a party to an appeal of the decision to the tribunal. If you wish to be notified of the decision in writing, please submit a written request to the clerk. The first application is an application for consent B05-2026. The owner is Cuddy Farms, a division of Hendricks Genetics Limited, care of Peggy Foster, and the agent is Daniel Murphy. And is Daniel here this evening? Yes, thank you. All right. First up, we will ask for a report from our planner. So I'll turn this portion of the meeting over to Ashley Sawyer.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Just want to make sure you can see my screen okay and you can hear me okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Yep, perfect. Okay, so as noted, the subject lands have a municipal address of 28429 Center Road, otherwise known as County Road number 81, and the lands are locally known for being the home to Cuddy Farms. The lands are located southwest of the Mullaferry Drive, 2nd Street, and Center Road intersection, and surrounding uses are predominantly agricultural, residential, and commercial in nature. The lands are currently approximately 356 acres in size and contain storage and warehousing for Cuddy Farms, as well as agricultural croplands. The lands have an existing frontage on Center Road, Hannah Lane, and Mullaferry Drive. Center Road and the portion of Mullaferry Drive fronting the lands are classified as a county arterial road, and Hannah Lane is classified as a local road. A portion of the lands are zoned and designated agriculturally, and a portion of the lands are within the urban area boundary designation and zoned commercial corridor. So this consent application proposes to sever approximately 126 acres of agriculturally designated and zoned land. So that's just the land outlined in red on the map there. And these lands contain agricultural croplands and a storage shed. The lands are surplus to the needs of the Cuddy Farm operation, and Cuddy Farms would retain approximately 230 acres with their existing facilities and some agricultural croplands as well. The severed parcel would have a frontage of approximately 984 feet on Mullaferry, and the retained parcel would retain approximately 2,390 feet on Mullaferry, as well as their existing frontage on Center Road and Panel Lane being unchanged. No change of use or a change to any existing servicing is proposed as part of this application. And the application was circulated in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, and additional verbal feedback may be received this evening. In terms of comments received, I would just note they are very standard for a consent of this nature. So the building department noted no concerns. Emergency services did just provide a standard comment that 911 addressing be confirmed and signage posted. The county engineer noted that road dedications will be required for up to 18 meters from the center line of Center Road and Mullaferry if the roads are not already to that width. And the Conservation Authority, being the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, did note that a portion of the lands are regulated by them. So that's where you can see the EP and the red hatching on the map. However, in their opinion, there is sufficient area on both lots should any future buildings or structures be proposed. And then any lands that would be subject to their regulations would require permits if works are proposed within it. Otherwise, they noted no. And then last but not least, no public comments have been received to date. So the policy context and my analysis is detailed in my report, but at a high level, I would just note that the only instance where a new agricultural parcel may be created is if the lot is or is larger than 40 hectares or approximately 100 acres in size. So in this instance, both parcels will well exceed this minimum. Additionally, the proposed lot fabric for the severed parcel is regularly shaped, and no new accesses or services are proposed. Sufficient frontage on public roads exists, and the parcels will be capable of functioning independently as viable agricultural parcels. So as such, for the reasons outlined in my report, staff are recommending the application be approved with the 12 conditions listed, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, including about any specific conditions and the reasoning behind them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Daniel, do you have anything you wanted to add to this application? Any comments? No, not at this time. Council, do you have any questions for Ashley or comments? Is there anyone in the gallery that wishes to speak for or against this application? Okay, seeing none, then we have a recommendation, and I won't read out the 12 conditions. So is someone prepared to support that recommendation? Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, we have a recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment be adjourned at 7:08 p.m. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Kingma, seconded by Councillor Brody. All in favor? And that's carried. We now have a recommendation that council convene into a public meeting at 7:08 p.m. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Kingma, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All in favor, and that's carried. So the first item up is the Adelaide Metcalfe Community Improvement Plan 2026 scoped update. See there. Hi, Jesse. How are you?
Good evening, Mayor Clark. I wasn't sure if I should jump in there or not, so.
Yeah, sure. Anytime. We're not that far.
Perfect.
Yeah. Go
Okay.
ahead. I'll turn this portion of the meeting over to you.
Okay, perfect. I'm just going to share my screen here. I've got a bit of a brief slide deck, and then I'll get started. Okay. Maybe I'll just get a quick thumbs up if we can all see that. Perfect. So my name is Jesse McPhail. I'm a partner with Republic Urbanism. We are a planning consulting firm assisting the township with a scoped update to the community improvement plan. So if council recalls, last I was back in front of you was in mid-June to provide a bit of an update as to where the project was at. So we're pleased to report that we've got a draft that's been circulated as per the statutory requirements of the Planning Act. And we're looking at hosting the public meeting, obviously, tonight, receiving feedback, and then looking to present the recommended adoption in September. Just a couple of legislative notes. So this meeting is being held in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. Notice of this meeting was provided in accordance with the Planning Act as well. And anyone can make an oral or written submission to the township regarding the CIMP amendments. If they don't, their ability to appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal may be impacted. So what's the project all about? Just a bit of a refresh. So the township is undertaking a scoped review and update to its community improvement plan that was adopted in 2022 or prepared in 2022 to strengthen the existing incentives, better support industrial, agricultural, and broader economic development priorities in the community. Just a bit of a refresher on what a CIP is exactly. A community improvement plan is a tool that is enabled under a combination of sections of the Planning Act and Municipal Act, and it allows municipalities essentially to offer incentive programming to help support economic development priorities in support of typically physical improvements in the municipality. So this can range from facade improvements to industrial development supports and kind of everything in between. Without a CIP in place, municipalities are largely restricted from providing these types of supports to private enterprise. So some of the key issues that we identified as part of the review was that the township lacks a traditional downtown or Main Street focus area. So it's a little more, it requires a little more innovation when it comes to the programming that's offered. And we need to kind of think a little bit more outside of the box in terms of how we're supporting economic development in the township. So there are no dedicated incentives for industrial development or farm worker housing. These were two priorities that were identified in discussions with staff, as well as the direction provided by council. So in order to address those new priorities, the existing document needs an update. And there were a few other housekeeping items in that document as well that just legislative references and some corrections to some technical items that were made as well. So the primary purpose and effect of the amendments that are being put forward in the draft right now, kind of 3 to 4 main items. So we're looking at introducing an industrial development support program. We're looking at introducing a farm worker housing support program. And in order to enable that industrial support program, we're looking at identifying a new focus area for the community improvement plan along the Highway 402 future industrial area, we're calling it, to align with some concurrent economic development initiatives that the township is undertaking. Some of the other small things, as I had mentioned, were minor technical updates and administrative updates, as well as slight increases to the maximum construction cost matching amounts offered under the existing grant programs. So I'll just go through a couple of the highlights from the draft amendments right now. So the Highway 402 focus area, just to provide a bit of context. So this is an area just north of Highway 402, immediately north of the Molnar Industrial Park in Strathroy. This is an area that has been identified in the township's recent industrial land development feasibility strategy. So that is an ongoing initiative where the township is looking at potential strategic investments to employment lands or future employment lands in this area. So we aligned this area and the programming that's designed to support those types of uses with that study. So I will say this is kind of looking ahead a couple of years. So this is likely not something that you'll see kind of this year or next year. It'll be kind of in the subsequent years to align with the township's goals for that area. And further to that, the Industrial Development Support Program itself. So this is an all-new program that's being introduced to the CIP. And this really is focused on encouraging industrial development and attracting industrial development to that Highway 402 industrial area in the future. So the main grant mechanism that's offered under this program is called a tax increment grant. So this is essentially works more or less like a tax deferral, wherein the recipient or the owner would pay their full tax bill for the year, and then they'd get granted back a certain percentage of those taxes that are owed in the form of a grant. The beauty of this type of grant is that it's in a sense self-funding, so the taxes that are collected off of that development are going back in the form of a grant. So yes, it's technically a net loss to that new tax revenue, but it is an attractor to new development. So there's kind of two tiers to this. So there's a 5-year, we're calling it a basic tax increment grant. So that's a maximum period of 5 years. And for more exceptional projects or those more really strategically significant employment projects, the township has the ability to offer a 10-year grant. So those would be subject to specific criteria for, the size of a development, as well as the type of sector that the township is looking to support. And this would be kind of reserved for, again, those major projects that you're looking to attract to the area. So just to help to paint a little bit of a clearer picture in terms of what that grant kind of looks like, I put together a very quick hypothetical example, just to look at the basic TIG program. So if we have a vacant lot, let's say it's already serviced, it's already prepped, and it's good to go. Let's say that lot's valued at $250,000 and it's currently assessed at that rate for tax purposes. And let's say we get an industrial development that's proposed, and following that development, that lot is reassessed at $2.5 million. So there's a considerable increase in the assessed value of that property, and with that comes an increase in tax revenue. So under this program, let's say they're offered that 5-year tax increment grant. So this would be looking at granting back 50% of the tax increment in year 1 and reducing by 10% annually. So the tax increment is the difference between the pre-development and post-development taxes that are collected by the township. So in this case, pre-development on those vacant lands, the township would be looking at collecting just over $2,300 a year. Post-development, it'd be around $35,000, $35,500. So from that new assessment, the township would be sourcing that grant money. And so this chart here just shows the relationship between that reduced grant over the 5-year period. So in the orange, that's the year 1 grant would be about $16,500, and it would reduce by 10% every year for the 5 years, while the new tax revenue that's collected by the township increases as an inverse function of that. So we see the kind of relationship over those 5 years. The total grant amount in this case would be just shy of $50,000, and the new tax revenue that is still collected by the township is around the tune of $116,000. So it's not an insignificant amount, but it's definitely a nice carrot to offer to that new development if you're looking to attract investment in the new employment area. And especially further so with the 10-year option, where the township and council has the option to increase that grant that's offered in the period of time that it's offered in, could be very attractive to potential occupants of those lands. The other major kind of update for the CIP is the Farm Worker Housing Support Program. So this is a little bit more of a simple one. This is looking at supporting the creation of purpose-built farm worker housing related to an active agricultural operation. So this would offer a grant equal to 50% of the township portion of development charges that are payable for the creation of new farm worker housing units. And we have a cap on this one of a maximum of $20,000. So it would be the less of 50% or $20,000. And this is based on just looking to, again, support ag operations and being able to construct the housing that's needed for their labor. So these will be subject to specific criteria, so including an agreement to set out the terms and conditions for one of the major things would be maintaining that housing for farm worker purposes solely, and as well as recollection of grant monies if those terms aren't met for a certain period of years. Some other general updates that I'll just kind of briefly go over is just additional strategic guidance for those industrial lands at the Highway 402 area that are kind of aligned with what the township's already doing there. As I said, increasing the maximum grant amounts available under the other programs that are currently available under the CIP. So this is, again, just raising those grant ceilings to allow some more flexibility for the township to provide those grants, as well as technical updates to policy and text. In terms of feedback, to date, it's to my knowledge, we've just received one written submission from St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, who had suggested some additional language be added to the farm worker housing program just to ensure that any development within their regulated area receives permission from their office in the form of a development permit or approval. No other comments have been received to date. So in terms of the approval process, so this is a statutory public meeting, so any of the feedback received either tonight or over the next couple of days will be provided to council and considered by staff as we look at finalizing the document. A council decision is anticipated to be brought forward in September for council consideration, and per the requirements of the Planning Act, this will be adopted by way of bylaw should council wish to do so. So that'll be subject also to an appeal period, and if no appeals are received, then that will come into force. So at this point, I would hand it back over to you, Mayor Clark, and if there's any questions or comments, I'm happy to provide further information.
Thank you, Jesse. Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Kingma.
Thank you, through the mayor. I think this report captures what council is hoping to achieve. So I just wish to thank the people that have made it to this point, made everything go to this point. I was wondering though, our neighbors, Strathroy Caradoc, have incentives as well. Is it customary to want to incentivize roughly to the same degree?
I don't know
It's
who
a very-
wants to take that question. Go ahead, Jesse.
Oh, yeah, I could maybe take a stab. I wasn't sure, but Mayor Clark, through you, Miss Mayor. Yeah, great question. With these types of relationships, particularly when you share a border with your neighbor, you always do want to try and make sure you're kind of aligned economically and strategically. And I be careful with my words, but it is, it is competitive when you're fighting for economic development and investment in your community. And I'm sure Strathroy's thinking the same thing with respect to their program. I don't know. Maybe I'll pass it to either Morgan or Mike if they wanted to provide any more context there. But I would say it's common to try and keep up with your neighbors and provide those incentives as well.
Yeah, Jesse, I think you said it well. Communities really are only ever in competition with each other when it comes to economic development and attracting new assessment. I would suggest that this program aligns with Adelaide Metcalfe's ability to pay for industrial related incentives, where Strathroy Caradoc's ability to pay would be a little bit higher. So as much as we want to be competitive, we still have to stay within our community's ability to pay for and attract new economic development.
Jesse, is it fair to say that Adelaide Metcalfe's the first municipality to look at the Farm Worker Housing Support Program initiative?
That's a great question, Mayor Clark. To my knowledge, I think it is. In my research and trying to take a look at other precedents, I haven't seen a specific program that's tailored to farm worker housing. Not to say that it doesn't exist, but just in our work on this project, I haven't seen any. So I would be careful with my words in saying that it 100% is the first, but I'd be happy if it was. That'd be a nice, innovative kind of star for you guys.
Well, you're for sure the first one in Middlesex County. I can vouch for that. So, is there anyone in the gallery that wishes to have any questions at this time? No? Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Jesse. Could I have a motion then that we receive the information, the presentation, the Adelaide Metcalfe Community Improvement Plan 2026 scoped update? Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All in favor, and that's carried. Thanks so much, Jesse. We'll see you in September.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
All right, could I have a motion to adjourn the public meeting at 7:25 p.m. Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All in favor, and that's carried. Next up, there are 3 items in the consent agenda. Is there anything anyone wants pulled from that, the consent agenda? Seeing none, then we have a recommendation that items 7A through 7C listed under the heading of consent agenda for the August 10th meeting, 2026, meeting of council be adopted as recommended. A mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All in favor? And that's carried. We have a request to support a resolution from the City of Mississauga regarding the provincial review of emergency shelters. Councillor McKinnon, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, I'd like to support the resolution. We all received the reports from the OPP regarding partner violence and see the incidents that are taking place in our vicinity and vicinities closest to us. So I would ask that we support this resolution. I'll move them.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Brody. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Next up, we have a request to support a resolution from the municipality of South Huron, heads and beds payment in lieu of taxes program. Request to support a resolution from the municipality of Wawa regarding the financial commitment for traffic calming and speeding mitigation. A request from the township of Alnwick, Haldeman, regarding the Beacons of Light British Home Children and Child Migrants, also known as the Bernardi Boys. Okay, a support from the township of Southwest Oxford regarding the support of pesticide use in public recreational spaces, or actually not to support it. Councillor Brody, go ahead. You want to support the pesticide use? Okay.
They banned it years ago as a widespread issue, so. To use it.
Continue. Okay.
It's been banned, so they want to be able
To continue using
to
it.
use it.
Okay. A seconder for that? Councillor Campbell seconds that. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, we have a recommendation that council receive and file 8B, 8C, and 8D. Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All in favor? Carried. Okay, next up are our staff reports. And the first one is the official plan amendment number 16. And I'll turn this portion of the meeting over to Abby Heddle-Jacobs.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. So tonight I'm bringing forward official plan amendment number 16, which represents the conclusion of the current policy alignment phase of the township's official plan review. The purpose of the amendment is to modernize the township's policy framework in response to changes to provincial legislation and policy, the recently approved county official plan, and updated population, housing, and employment projections. The amendment also provides clarification to existing policies where appropriate and incorporates updated planning principles. So as we can all appreciate, the broader planning framework has changed significantly over the past several years, most notably through the 2024 Provincial Planning Statement, changes to the Planning Act, as well as other provincial legislation, in addition to the updated county official plan, which was approved by the ministry on June 5th, 2026. Amendment number 16 is intended to bring the township's policy framework into conformity with those changes. So as council is aware, this review has focused on 5 main areas, being agriculture, housing, employment, natural heritage, and additional considerations related primarily to provincial changes. As it relates to agriculture, the amendment addresses matters such as permitted uses, agricultural consents and surplus dwellings, additional residential units, and the implementation of an agricultural systems approach. On housing, the amendment introduces policies supporting additional residential units and garden suites, updated definitions, and it also incorporates the updated population and housing projections that were undertaken through the county official plan update and based on the 2024 Ministry of Finance projections. For employment, the amendment updates the policy framework for employment areas and establishes policies for considering employment land conversions in accordance with the county official plan and PPS. And then the natural heritage policies have also been updated to move towards a systems-based approach while incorporating policies related to things like climate change as well as natural hazards and flooding. So one important thing that I would like to emphasize is that this amendment is primarily a policy update. It is not a comprehensive review of the township's land use designations and mapping. The review of the land use schedules is to be considered through a second phase of the official plan review and update process. And that phase will really just allow us to undertake a more detailed assessment of land needs, land use designations, your settlement area boundaries, and mapping. And it will ensure that these components are considered against this updated policy framework and the township's longer-term planning objectives, including long-term economic development objectives or initiatives. There is also a set of proposed administrative policies included as part of this exercise. And these are really intended to provide flexibility for routine administrative and housekeeping updates to the official plan without the requirement for a formal amendment for matters that do not really impact the policy substance or intent of the plan. So an example of this would be that these policies would allow staff to address matters such as formatting, section numbering, the table of contents, updated ministry or agency names, as well as matters pertaining to accessibility and AODA related formatting requirements, and any other similar administrative corrections or updates, again, where that policy intent is unchanged. And this is really to provide some practical flexibility to keep the document current and accessible, and obviously in compliance with AODA legislation. And just for council's information, at the county, we are going to be looking at all of the local planning documents, I think later this year or early next year, to ensure that they are AODA compliant. So in terms of consultation, the review has included a community survey, a non-statutory open house, the statutory open house, and the statutory public meeting, as well as circulation to agencies and other interested parties. The survey received 89 responses and provided staff with broader community feedback on agriculture, housing, growth, employment, and environmental considerations. Overall, the feedback supported a balanced approach to growth, continued protection of agricultural lands and natural heritage, and directing growth toward existing settlement areas, while also recognizing the need for additional housing options and employment opportunities. So staff's recommendation is therefore that council adopt official plan amendment number 16 with the required declarations under the Planning Act, and that the amendment subsequently be forwarded to the County of Middlesex for approval as the approval authority. And then following this policy alignment exercise, the next major component of this project will be phase 2, which again is that review and update of the land use schedules. And that work will really just build on the policy framework before council tonight and will provide an opportunity to comprehensively consider the township's land use designations and your land use schedules in the OP. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Abby. Are there any questions? Councillor Kingma, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Abby, I wonder if I could get a clarification or two on a couple of things. I think it's on page 45. There's a reference to what's allowed or not allowed in the commercial corridor. Section 3.4.3.2 or whatever that is, paragraph B. Commercial plazas and small-scale freestanding retail and office uses are not permitted in the commercial corridor. are we referring to small scale offices in that sentence too? I'm trying to decipher the grammar.
Sorry, I'm just bringing up that section now. Sorry, are you able to clarify which section that is again for me?
Sounds like it's page 45. Abby.
Page 45, yep.
Okay.
Section 3.4.3.2, paragraph B.
'44, actually.
Okay, yep. So I see that. So you're asking if we're referring to small scale office uses?
Yeah, so I could phrase it another way. Can we have an enormous office complex?
I believe that is intended, like the small scale freestanding retail and office uses are like, it's intended to be read together. So the small scale would apply to office uses.
That's much appreciated. Now I understand. Thank you. Just on the previous page, is it okay if I ask another question? Yep. On the previous page, page 44, there's another paragraph with missing information. 3.4.2.4, paragraph B.
Oh yeah, I see that. Yeah, so that was an issue on my behalf, and that can be modified by way of the decision through the county. In consultation with the township CAO.
Sorry, I had just assumed it was 20, like you were using 2 Roman numerals, but perhaps I'm mistaken.
I think that's what it's supposed to be, but it should say 20.
Abby, where did we pull this information from?
So this wording was provided from the township's legal counsel.
Do we have that anywhere where we can pull this number?
I don't think so. The email was never provided to me directly, I don't believe. I can check for it though.
So the intention of these provisions is to ensure that we are aligning with the servicing arrangement with Strathroy Caradoc and the interim servicing agreement, so that we're not doing things that we're not supposed to without appropriate consultation. I'm not sure what exactly that number is in B though.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure either. I thought that it was 20.
Just give me a minute, Abby. I'm gonna take a look at a couple emails here.
Okay.
Are there other questions for Abby on this? Okay, Abby, I think we're going to kick it back to you and defer this, accepting this at this time.
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay. Could I have a motion that will refrain from voting on this tonight? Moved by Counselor McKinnon, seconded by Counselor Brody. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Abby. We'll
Thank
look
you.
forward to clarifying that for us.
Yep.
Okay, next up on our staff reports is the school road landfill update, the review of future management options, and I'll turn this portion of the meeting over to our Public Works Manager, Coulter Cahill.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clark. I'm gonna go through this report pretty in depth just because there's a lot of information here and I don't want to miss anything. The purpose of this report is to inform council of the operational challenges currently impacting the school road landfill. On November 3rd, 2025, staff presented a report to council regarding the school road landfill capacity update following a recent topographic survey. Results from this survey confirmed that the amount of waste or otherwise was within the buffer zone areas of the approved final cover contours. As a result, the township was to cease the acceptance of all non-hazardous waste materials at the site immediately to ensure it remained compliant with our ACA. At that time, council directed staff to undertake a comprehensive review of all available options and associated costs in consultation with the MECP. Council further directed staff to report back with detailed findings and recommend next steps. Since that time, staff have worked with GHD, an environmental engineering firm, and have consulted with representatives from the MECP to evaluate several potential options for the future operation of the school road landfill. There are 4 potential paths that have been identified, and they're outlined below in this report. Since the recent operational changes were implemented, landfill usage has declined significantly. Over the past 5 landfill operating days, attendance has averaged approximately 4.6 vehicles per day, and in fact, this past weekend we only had 2 cars show up, so it has been reduced quite a bit. The township has also recently experienced staffing changes affecting landfill operations, making it increasingly challenging to maintain adequate staffing levels under the current operating schedule. These changes have created operational challenges in sustaining existing service levels and further highlight the need to evaluate a sustainable long-term service delivery model for the school road landfill. Outlined below are the 4 potential options for council to consider, followed by a staff recommendation. Option 1 is expand the existing landfill. Approximate time would be 18 to 24 months to get this thing up and running. This option would involve expanding the existing landfill footprint to provide additional disposal capacity. The preliminary scope of work would include many things like engineering design, environmental compliance approval, surveying, geotechnical investigations and lab testing, environmental studies, site prep, earthworks, and associated engineering and regulatory requirements. The estimated cost of this option is approximately $1.4 million. While expansion would extend the operational life of the landfill, it would also result in future closure obligations, long-term monitoring requirements, and ongoing post-closure financial liabilities. Option 2 would be landfill closure. This option would involve permanently closing the landfill in accordance with the MECP requirements. Closure would require the preparation of a landfill closure plan, implementation of the closure works, and completion of all required post-closure monitoring and maintenance activities. As outlined in the township's landfill post-closure liability report, the estimated landfill closure and post-closure liability was $733,444 as of December 31st, 2025. The corresponding landfill post-closure reserve fund balance was $492,000, $350.25, resulting in a funding gap of approximately $241,094. Although this option would eliminate future landfill operations, the township would continue to be responsible for ongoing monitoring and maintenance following the closure. While closure of the landfill will ultimately be required, the township has the opportunity to defer the process while continuing to build the landfill post-closure reserve in accordance with the multi-year funding strategy presented to council during 2026 budget. This strategy includes modest annual increases in reserve contributions with the objective of fully funding the estimated post-closure liability by the end of 28. Deferring closure provides additional time to strengthen the township's financial position while preparing for the significant costs associated with the landfill closure. Option 3 is develop a transfer station and environmental depot. The approximate timeline for this is 3 to 6 months. Staff have discussed the feasibility of developing a transfer station with the MECP compliance officer. Based on discussions, it is staff's understanding that the township would not be required to complete the landfill closure before establishing a transfer station. This would allow the township to continue with its current financial strategy of delaying landfill closure for several years, while reserve funds are accumulated to offset future closure costs. Working with GHD, the estimated cost to establish a transfer station and environmental depot is approximately $17,500. This estimate does include updating the operations and maintenance manual, environmental compliance approval, and regulatory support and coordination with the MECP. A transfer station would allow residents to continue accessing waste disposal services at the existing landfill property while eliminating the need for landfill capacity. Staff have also had preliminary discussions with multiple companies regarding the operation of a transfer station and environmental depot. Through discussions, service providers with experience operating similar municipality facilities throughout Middlesex County have indicated they could provide a fully integrated management service tailored to the township's operational needs. The services offered could include staffing the facility based on the township's preferred operating schedule, day-to-day operation and supervision of the transfer station, resident assistance and customer service, staff training, health and safety, operational procedures, the roll-off bin supply, servicing, transportation, and logistics, collecting, hauling, processing, and reporting for municipal diversion programs, and administration of extended producer responsibility programs, and coordination of contractors and service providers. Also, diversion reporting, operational reviews, and ongoing program improvements. Based on the preliminary discussions, the proposed transfer station would be designated around 3 primary material streams: municipal solid waste, construction and demolition material, leaf and yard waste for composting or mulch production. These services could be completed by diversion programs already familiar to the township residents, including scrap metal, tires, batteries, concrete, and other stewardship or extended producer responsibility programs. Discussions with local waste management service providers indicate that this option could be implemented with a relatively simple operating model while maintaining the previous level of service of accepting non-hazardous waste. While the initial cost, as mentioned, of $17,500 would cover the approvals required to establish a transfer station, there would still be annual operating costs. Staff obtained quotes from local waste management service providers and found that while maintaining the current schedule of 21 landfill operating days, the estimated annual operating cost would be $48,372. This is comparable to the cost of operating a full landfill. However, transfer station offers significant long-term advantages as it eliminates future landfill closure obligations, long-term environmental monitoring requirements, and ongoing post-closure financial liabilities, which we are seeing now with our current landfill. Under this option, the township would enter into a service agreement with a qualified waste management provider to operate and manage the transfer station. If council chooses to proceed with this option, it could also provide an immediate solution to the current staffing challenges at the landfill. As part of the service agreement, the selected waste management provider could potentially supply staff resources to assist with the operation of the existing landfill. This would help maintain uninterrupted service while the township completes the approvals and construction required to establish the transfer station. And finally, option 4, maintain the current operation. Under this option, the landfill would remain open for the acceptance of approved materials, which include bricks, concrete blocks, broken concrete, rock, stone, metal, appliances, tires, wood, and scrap metal. This option represents the lowest immediate capital cost, but does not address the township's long-term waste management strategy or provide a solution for future solid waste disposal. The estimated costs associated with each option are summarized below. Option 1, as mentioned, expanding the existing landfill would cost approximately $1.4 million. And should council choose this option, a funding strategy would be developed through the 2027 budget process. In addition to expansion costs, the township would also be required to establish a revised long-term funding strategy to address the increased future landfill closure and post-closure liability. Option 2, landfill closure. This estimated landfill closure and post-closure liability, $733,444. And as part of the 2026 budget, council adopted a multi-year reserve funding strategy intended to fully fund this liability by the end of 2028, as mentioned previous. While landfill closure will ultimately be required, deferring closure allows the township to continue building the post-closure reserve in accordance with the strategy, placing the township in a stronger financial position. Option 3, establish a transfer station, environmental depot. As mentioned in the report, approximately $17,500 for the ECA amendment and a few other things involving engineering support. Given the estimated 3 to 6 month timeline required to complete the approvals and establish the transfer station, staff recommend funding the initial $17,500 from the 2026 landfill post-closure reserve budget allocation. This would allow the township to begin approval process immediately rather than waiting until 2027 budget process, which would further delay implementing 7 months in addition to the required approval timeline. Should council approve this funding approach, the township would restore the $17,500 to the landfill post-closure reserve through the 2027 budget. In addition to the established multi-year reserve funding strategy, ensuring the reserve remains on track for the end of 2028. Option 4, status quo. This option has minimal immediate capital implications, with ongoing operating costs continuing to be funded through the existing operating budget. There are a few operating budget implications for 2027. The approved 2026 operating budget was built recognizing that School Road landfill had reached capacity and would no longer accept non-hazardous waste. As a result, the operating budget was reduced to reflect the limited service. If council chooses to permanently close the landfill and discontinue all waste disposal services, approximately $15,288 in annual operating costs would be eliminated. Should council instead choose to restore full waste disposal services through either an expanded landfill, option 1, or the establishment of a transfer station, option 3, the operating budget would need to increase by approximately $35,000 annually over the approved 2026 budget. My recommendation is in the report, but I will open it up for any questions, conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Coulter. On option 3, I don't know if you or Johnny wants to take this question. The annual operating cost of $48,372, is that net of tipping fees or that's the gross before there's any revenue?
That is the gross before there is any revenue. We never took into consideration any tipping fees, just if we expanded the landfill or had a transfer station, it wouldn't be brought into the equation.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Councillor Brody.
Through the mayor to council and staff, I like the option 3. I always kind of said right away we should just do a transfer station. no offense to anybody here that it took so long. The ministry red tape gets worse, but anyways, that's my opinion. But I do like the idea of having a transfer station. I think we need it in our township. We can basically readjust fees according to, how year 6 months go. We'll know pretty quick if we're ahead, backwards, good. So that way, we can cover ourselves. And it gives us lots of time to close it or not close it later. Option 4 is not an option for me. Like, no one's even using it now. Like those numbers showed that. And then the other two, expanding it just doesn't make any sense. That kind of number, when we can bring this stuff in and get rid of it.
Johnny, did you have something you wanted to add to my question?
Yeah, sure. Through the mayor to council, just from a costing perspective, when you ran the analysis, the costs of running a transfer station versus us, say, continuing to run the transfer or landfill, those costs were pretty equal. So when you looked at the revenue, the net impact would be likely the same as what we're experiencing when the landfill was fully open, just as an FYI. The quote or the amount that you see in the report, we actually amended those costs to include the exact tonnage of waste we received at that landfill to have a like for like comparison.
Thanks. Councillor Brody, follow up?
Yeah, just comment, like, you gotta remember, like, every time you have to bring a hi-ho in, what was that, monthly or
After every landfill day.
after every landfill day? Like, that's all costs compared to having a company bring a bin in and take it away, right? So,
Yeah, and you don't have the long-term, costs when, like comes to the monitoring. I think it's 25 years after closure, you still have to monitor if you expanded it, so it's quite a bit.
Anybody else have any comments or questions? Councillor Campbell, go ahead.
Yeah, just one through you, Mayor. In terms of use of the timeline, we can get it transfer station up and running fairly quickly. Is that through? Do you have to do a request for proposals from companies to do this? Like basically how quickly before everything is built and ready and somebody is there running it so that you guys aren't having to do this?
Mayor, if you don't mind me answering. Yeah, Councilor Campbell, great question. We'll have to look at the costs relative to council's procurement bylaw. And we might be able to find some solutions to move quickly. So we haven't done that research just yet. Off the top of my head, though, that this does fit within like a quotation realm, which means it's a targeted approach to 3 companies. I'm not even sure if there's 3 companies available. Probably Cole can answer that question, but I know there's at least 2. So, and those things can happen pretty quickly.
Councillor Kingma, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the mayor, just a comment. I have no trouble understanding why we're not getting any more landfills in the province. There's an expectation that there won't be any more room for garbage in about 10 years. So this is a big problem. I have a question about the site, School Road site. Is it possible that if we, based on public sentiment, decide to increase service levels, are we going to be constrained physically at all at that site? Is there going to be problems with queuing and so on and so forth?
Could you elaborate on increased service levels?
Yeah, if there's other items that we will endeavor to collect from the public, will we need more space? Will that site have any risk at all of being too small?
Well, that is a great question, Councillor Kim. I did, however, meet with a couple companies out there. They've inspected the site, and they think there's actual ample space. I think it would take 5 large bins, and they would just come in and out as needed back there. So there's lots of space.
Any further questions? Okay, we have a recommendation. The council directs staff to initiate the process of establishing a municipal transfer station and in the interim, work with a local waste management partner to assist with the operation and management of the existing landfill during the transition period. And that council authorized the use of $17,500 from the 2026 landfill post-closure reserve budget allocation to fund the initial planning and approval costs associated with this work. And further, the council directs staff to restore the $17,500 to the landfill post-closure reserve through the 2027 budget allocation, in addition to the established multi-year landfill funding strategy to ensure the estimated landfill closure and post-closure liability remains fully funded by the end of 2028. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, next up on the agenda is the Middlesex OPP Detachment Board Administration Report. I'll turn this portion over to our CAO, Morgan Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor Clark, and through you to council. As council may remember, the Middlesex OPP Detachment Board was established back in April of 2024. Since its establishment, Middlesex Center has been supporting the board in an administrative and financial management capacity. This board is a civilian board representing the participating municipalities of Adelaide Metcalfe, Metcalfe, North Middlesex, Middlesex Center, Thames Center, Newbury, and Southwest Middlesex, with Strathroy Caradoc having its own police services board as it operates its own police services. In June of this year, the detachment board requested that Middlesex County provide administrative support while leaving the financial management of the board in Middlesex Center. This was in part due to capacity issues within the administration of Middlesex Center. Through this report, I'm seeking council's direction to prepare and submit a letter to the detachment board putting forward Adelaide Metcalfe as the administrative and financial management support the board requires. The township possesses the organizational capacity and expertise necessary to effectively provide administrative and financial support to the detachment board, offering the board an additional service delivery option that is cost-effective, locally accessible, and supported by one of the participating municipalities responsible for funding the OPP policing services and the board's operations. Happy to take any comments or questions from council at this time. Otherwise, I'd kindly ask council to approve the report and recommendation as presented.
Hey, are there any questions for Morgan? Okay, seeing none then, we have a recommendation that council direct staff to prepare and submit a letter to the Middlesex OPP Detachment Board expressing the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe's interest in providing administrative and financial support services to the Middlesex OPP Detachment Board, should the board wish to consider alternative administrative service delivery models, and that should the township be identified as a preferred administrative service provider, staff be directed to negotiate a service agreement for the provision of administrative and financial support services and report back to council with a proposed agreement for consideration. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Campbell, seconded by Councillor Brody. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, the last of the staff reports is the Humane Society for London Middlesex regarding animal care and control services, the agreement amendment. And I'm assuming, oh, it's you, it's our clerk. I'll turn it over to Michael Barnier.
Thank you. Through the mayor to members of council. You will recall that the township currently has a 5-year agreement with the Humane Society of London Middlesex, which runs until November 2027. In June, the Humane Society advised that it's no longer able to provide municipal bylaw enforcement and proactive animal control services and requested an amendment to the existing agreement. Staff subsequently met with the Humane Society and worked through a revised scope of services. Under the amendment, the Humane Society would continue to provide pound keeping, adoption and disposition services, community cat management, and confined stray dog pickup on a fee-for-service basis. Importantly, they will continue to support our community cat initiatives in Kerwood, subject to the available capacity and funding. Animal control and bylaw enforcement services would transition to Middlesex Center under our existing bylaw enforcement services agreement. Staff have discussed this transition with the chief of building official. The Humane Society annual fee would change to $12,000 per annum, with dog pickups charged separately at $70 per hour plus mileage. Middlesex Center's enforcement services are currently billed at $65.50 per hour. This is not necessarily an overall cost savings, rather it reallocates the services between the Humane Society and Middlesex Center. Looking in the longer term, staff intended to issue an RFP in 2027 to determine an appropriate animal control service model once the current Humane Society agreement expires. The recommendation tonight is to approve the amendment and authorize the mayor and clerk to execute it. But I'm happy to answer any questions if you have it in this regard.
Okay, thank you. At least they're going to provide some of the services that we still desperately need, so that's good. Any questions for Mike? Seeing none, then we have a recommendation that council approve the proposed amendment to the Animal Care and Control Services Agreement between the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe and the Humane Society London and Middlesex. And further, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the amendment and any documents necessary. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay. It is now 8:07 PM and we have a recommendation that council adjourn to closed session at 8:07 pursuant to section 2392 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss the following matters: a personnel matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, a personal matter regarding staffing. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Brody. All in favor? And that's carried. We'll now go into closed